Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we're taking a look at an Earthrise Micromaster unit, so get ready for some mockery out of this one, because we are taking a look at the Racetrack Patrol. Of course, the Racetrack Patrol this time around only consists of Groundhog and Roller Force. Now, I'm not pointing at them for a specific reason. This is due to the fact that they have switched it up from the Generation 1 days. In the G1 days, this over here was Groundhog, and this is Roller Force. Hasbro has switched the names between them. You want proof for that? Well, here it is on the back of the package. They call Roller Force the blue car, and Groundhog is the magenta car. And in the G1 era, this was Groundhog, and that was Roller Force. So they've made the mistake on the packaging, and the mistake is also carried over onto the instructions. Hasbro, if you can't get anybody to check the archives correctly, quit boasting yourselves as one of the great toy makers. This is going to upset the fans that you can't identify your old toys. Hey, bloody idiots. At any rate, I'm not going to name them by the way Hasbro did in this new wave. I'm going to go by the G1 style. So for all of you that are G1 fans out there, you're welcome. For those of you who are not G1 fans, well, sorry. At any rate, let's get them each separated, and we'll take a look at them one at a time. We'll start first off with Groundhog here. Keep the camera steady. Groundhog here was, in the G1 continuity, was the mechanic for the Racetrack Patrol, so he was always coming up with ways to soup up their engines in the hopes of delivering better performance. Consequently, he's made them more noisier instead as well, and thus that's led him to become a bit deaf. Of course, on the original toy, he was more in a purple color than the new one, which is now blue in color, so it's a different change, but the one biggest that I enjoy is the fact that on the new one, they at least took the time to add a paint application for the extra pipes along the side of him, whereas on the G1 version, they are unpainted. The original toy could lift his arms up about so far only, and you could bend his legs at the hip, like so, and he could bend at the knees, like so, and that was about it. The new Earthrise version, he's got substantially more. You can raise his arm out to the side, about so far, and you can rotate his arms only up to the top of his shoulders, so doesn't really have quite the range of motion. He can be twisted at the hip. He can't do a full splits because he can only spread his legs about that far. He can raise his leg at the hip 90 degrees, and he can bend at the knee 90 degrees. So now, of course, to transform him, well, it's pretty simple. What else do you expect from a Micromaster? You basically get his legs together down here at the feet. Then we're going to fold them over and line them up with the body. His arms, you slide in underneath the legs and then push them upwards so they lock into place. Like that. Trying to get this one side to line up like it should. And then you fold the hood down at the front. Come on. There we go. That's about as good as it's going to get. And there he is in his alternate mode. Of course, a nice comparison to the Generation 1 version. It's nice to see that on this one they also retain the flame job on the hood. That's a nice homage and detail to the original. And it's even in a relatively similar pattern. Of course, they've spread it out more on the new one, due to the fact that it's a larger toy. How well does he roll on his little wee wheels? Well, he rolls pretty good. Rolls pretty good, all things considered. Now we'll take a look here at Roller Force. Roller Force in the Generation 1 era was the most determined character to win among the racetrack patrol. So he was probably one of the better drivers, next to their leader Barricade. That's one thing to point out. This is the first of the Micromasters that was done as a patrol, not a squad. That doesn't include the leader. Of course, Barricade has since moved on in the Transformers universe to being a major character. That's partially due to Michael Bay's Transformer movies, as Barricade was the police car in that movie. And if you were around here for the Siege toys, Barricade was also sold that way. Granted, as a repaint of Prowl, but we'll ignore that for the moment. At any rate here, Roller Force is not only one of the best drivers on the team, but he's also the biggest cheater. Because he's going to want to make sure he's number one, and he'll do it by any way possible, even if it means he has to embarrass his teammate to do it. At any rate, it's nice to see they retain something of the similar shape of the robot for him, and of course they changed the color, which I think is a better choice. The original one was a little too pink. A lot of people probably didn't like that. But, at any rate, that's just how it was back in the 80s. Now, of course, Roller Force can rotate his arm. The original one can rotate his arms almost all the way. There's a little knob on the side that sort of blocks it, but it's more the back portion here gets in the way of the arm's rotation. And, of course, he can bend at the hip 90 degrees, and he can bend at the knee 90 degrees. So, the original one doesn't have a whole lot going for it, articulation-wise. The new one, on the other hand, you can spread his arms out like so. And he does have enough clearance to rotate his arms all the way. He does have enough room to twist at the hip. He can spread his legs apart that far. He can also raise his leg up about 90 degrees, and he can bend at the knee just barely 90 degrees. So, a nice improvement on the Micromasters in the terms of their articulation. Now, of course, we've got to transform Roller Force. And, of course, it's almost the same as with Groundhog. You basically put his legs together like so. Then you're going to raise back this rear portion of his legs to make sure they connect first onto the body. And that should raise the rest of his feet up to form a spoiler. You rotate his arms so they go to the side, and they have a little post that should connect into a hole in his hip. It isn't going to be exactly flush, but that's the way his car is designed. There we go. That went in. And then lastly, you fold the front of the car over his head. And then there you have it. There he is in his car mode. And of course, right next to the Generation 1 version. And it is a nice improvement on it. There is substantially more detail. Because on this one here, you can actually see the shocks along the front wheels here, whereas that was not really seen on the G1 version. So a nice improvement overall. And then, of course, back here on the spoiler, we have a little splash of some orange. It's just subtle enough to be nice, just to break the color up a little bit. I mean, it's not really the best color to go with it, but it does break up the color a little bit, and that's a nice thing. And how does he roll? Rolls fairly good. There we go. Put some effort into it here. Cheap tripod. And there we go. That's Roller Force for you. Okay, we had a slight problem with the camera, so we got to redo this for you all. Not something I enjoy because of how this weapon mode is. But here on Groundhog, you first pull the peg out from under the hood. Fold the hood up. Then you're going to work the arms free so that we can fold the legs out and bend him at the hip down like so. Try to keep the legs together. And then we reposition the arms back into position. And then you fold the hood of the car back down and bend him at the knees. So he's ready. For Roller Force, we fold up the front of the car, fold out the post, move his arms out, straighten out his legs, and then reattach the arms. And then we fold him up upside down like that. And then Groundhog just connects into the hole in Roller Force's chest. And then there you have it. Gun mode. Now, Hasbro doesn't even mention what kind of gun he becomes in the instructions. And I'd say that's a good thing, because this thing looks stupid. This thing looks stupid. I was overjoyed when I had read they were supposedly not going to do this again. And what do? They do it again. Exactly the opposite of what they promised us. So, Hasbro, don't promise us anything. You're about as bad as our politicians, and they lie enough as it is. Alright, there we go. Back to car mode where they actually look decent. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of the Racetrack Patrol? I am glad to see that they did make some improvements upon the originals. The added paint job, the added splotches of paint were a nice touch, and I will fully support that on them. Especially when the original Micromasters, getting extra paint on them was a scarcity. It was a method of keeping the costs down. But in here, it doesn't really hurt them much. In fact, it actually improves them. I don't like the fact that Hasbro, though, changed the names on them, since there really wasn't a reason to do so. It more shows that somebody really didn't look that great in the archives. So, that just shows laziness on Hasbro's part. But, given what all they've been doing lately with various things in the toys and their promotional material that they're doing for the various toy lines, that doesn't come off as much of a surprise when you think about it. But all in all, the Racetrack Patrol here is a nice welcome addition back in. If we could only just get Hasbro convinced to stop making combined Micromaster gun forms. Ugh. Anyway, that concludes my review of the Racetrack Patrol. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked this video, please drop me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and join our ranks. And ring the bell, because videos like this could go up at almost any time, in addition to our normal Friday broadcasts. Also, please share this video with your friends and fellow collectors. That's what helps this channel grow. And share your thoughts about the Racetrack Patrol in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.